Hello, our friends, Evolutionary Energy Arts family.
Hi there, welcome back.
Welcome back, guys. And, this has been something I've been wanting to do this video for a long time. And we just always get, waylaid or pulled aside with breaking news and so many other things, or we'll end up channeling something. And here we see John Lennon and Yoko Ono, for those of you that are of this generation or that have, delved into what's now the ancient past, which was like my yesterday. Yesterday, that was a Beatles song, right? And this is the Beatles. Well, it's really John Lennon and Yoko Ono chanting Hare Krishna. The Beatles brought so much of the mysticism that was out there to the Western world in subtle ways. And I was never really a Beatles fan as a youth growing up and all, though I think I have a better appreciation of them now as I've aged than I did when I was young. Yeah, I was into a little bit heavier stuff for the most part. But, we all change, we all evolve, don't we?
Oh, we sure do. We change, evolve, we grow, we expand. We learn new things. Mostly it's about learning new things that you didn't know were out there. And then, hey, you discover you like it. Just like when I was younger, this is going to sound so silly, but I was too afraid to eat cheesecake because I thought it was really made of like block cheese, like cheddar cheese.
Oh.
I wouldn't eat it. And then I go and taste cheesecake. My life changed.
It's freaking amazing.
It is. So that's one example.
It is. Those are the type of things exactly. It's like sometimes you think something, maybe you hear people doing a chant, like the Hare Krishna chant that we've all heard, but have we really heard it? Have we really heard it in our soul? Do we even understand it? And, Krishna is an amazing individual, and he's appeared to Cindy and I several times and is one of our guides, so to speak. And his energy is it's a unique one, absolutely unique. But yet, in reality, as I was just asking Cindy, compare, and we've done this in the past, comparing Krishna's energy with Yeshua's energy, and there's a lot of similarities, and you get that they're all about the exact same mission.
Oh, they are, very much so. They have a lot in common. They have a lot of the same beliefs, or I like to call them understandings, on as far as leading people, helping people to find themselves. They were both just on that same path, and they lead people gently with a light heart, and it's a beautiful thing. That's what they have in common.
Krishna left this world, it's thought, bodily in 3104, approximately, BC. So 3104 years. If Yeshua was born in 4 BC, so 3100 years difference between the two of them, in between incarnations, with Krishna being here a lot longer, many, many more years ago. Yeah, they do have the same purpose. They have a little bit different personalities. Krishna is very playful, very, very playful. He's all about enjoying the incarnation. He does see the bigger picture of things, and in fact, he helped fight against the asuras, which we could view as the demons, so to speak, the dark forces, as we have in Hinduism, we have devas, which are the gods, the benevolent beings. And again, when we say gods, we mean the beings that have perhaps a greater knowing and understanding and ability to manipulate time, space, and the universe we live in, the multiverse that we live in. They're kind of more evolved up the totem pole than Homo sapiens sapiens. Although the spark that's in them and the spark that is in us is the same spark. It comes from source. They just have had maybe a longer time in incarnation where they've been able to grow at a faster rate, so to speak. So they're kind of higher up the totem pole in their understanding of things. And they are benevolent. The Asuras are kind of their dark counterpart. And I recognized, to me, it seemed very, very much that the battles going on between these beings, the Devas and the Asuras, to me, it felt like right away. It was the battles between the ancient and shining ones who were thought of as benevolent beings throughout all the cultures around the globe. In ancient days, the beings that taught us how the universe works taught us yoga. You know, what's yoga? Well, yoga, the root word basically is yoke, and which means to basically join something with. And it's joining us with source. It's union with source, union with God with the big G, a pathway that will lead to that. So they taught us yoga. They taught us different forms. They taught us meditation. They taught us things like Qigong. They taught us so many things, how to harvest crops, how to grow crops, how to, read the signs of the weather and of the stars. They taught us astrology and all these things. These were things that were given to mankind by the ancient and shining ones. And when we say shining ones, many of them appear to us as being golden beings of just a light body.
They do. They're very, very beautiful, and you can really feel their essence, and you can feel their intention, which is always of a higher vibration of wanting to help and assist and help show someone their path.
So I feel like these wars were really wars that were between these beings who were not going to be around us long anymore because they knew they couldn't stay. They couldn't go down in vibration low enough without taking on, certain things like a physical incarnation, like Yeshua did, or like Krishna did, or like Rama did. They wouldn't be able to appear to us as they did on a regular basis as we move deeper and deeper into the Dark Age, into the Kali Yuga. And at the same time, the Asuras, or the Dark Ones, who I equate to the Anunnaki under draconian control and others of their allies, they were able to easier and easier and in greater methods of control take over the planet, take over humanity, take over the narrative. And they portrayed these ancient and shining benevolent beings once they were gone from the scene visibly and not in our lives in everyday manner anymore as something other, as fallen angels. And I feel like when we look at the Book of Enoch, that's what the Book of Enoch is doing. It's trying to paint these benevolent beings as fallen demonic energies, which they're not. The demonic energies, well, you don't have to look any farther than the Vatican, plain and simple. And all of the official narrative that goes on around the globe, the control system that they've given us is that of the Draco, Anunnaki, Illuminati, secret societies, these lower density beings who want you to only give your power to them. They don't want you to, throw your attention to any of these beings that, what do they do? And what they do is, like, when we ask for help and say we're asking Krishna or Rama or any of these beautiful beings like a Lakshmi or an Isis or a white buffalo calf woman, what do? They take any energy that we throw their way, any conscious intent and intention, they amplify it and they throw it back down to this reality. So when we send our prayers up, the benevolent beings take those prayers, they add their energy to it, amplify it, send the energy back down. They don't suck the energy up for themselves like vampires or anything that you would see these dark forces do. Quite the opposite. Krishna, lighthearted, because we were supposed to enjoy this creation. This was supposed to be school and playground for us.
Absolutely. It's supposed to be those things, and it was kind of hijacked and sent in a different direction, which is really, really sad because we would be completely different beings now had we not been taken and put into these schools to become little batteries for the elitist businesses, because that's we've been trained for now. We never learn anything that's really important, like, going gardening, learn how to make a house, learn how to do things that are really important for everyday living on this planet, learn about Earth, in a sense where how important grounding is. We don't learn stuff like that. We learn things they want us to know.
Exactly. So Krishna consciousness, in some ways, it's the original Christ consciousness. There is a slight difference because every single being is unique. And everyone has their own take on it. And when we look at Krishna, he's thought to be an avatar of Lord Vishnu. Vishnu is the preserving force of the universe, according to the Hindu tradition. And some also believe that Buddha himself was an incarnation of Vishnu. When you look at the avatars of Vishnu as well, you could basically see the evolution of consciousness as we go from, fish to basically turtle, and going on up into the animal realms, then into the human realms, and progressing in the humanoid realms up into higher and higher levels of consciousness. And, again, Vishnu, the creative, preservative force, I should say, of the universe. There is the line of thinking that we'll get into more of, as is written in their scriptures, in the Hindu scriptures, that when you are basically giving thanks to Vishnu, you're also giving thanks to Shiva. And Shiva is kind of like the consciousness. Well, it's that which is not. So it's the consciousness before manifestation, where Vishnu is the consciousness in manifestation. And so when we see, again, Krishna, often he's playing a flute, dancing, having a good time, and it was Christ was accused, Yeshua was accused of basically partying with the sinners and drinking wine with the sinners and hanging around with prostitutes and the like. He also, was in the world, but not of the world, but understood, again, that ultimately this world was meant to be one that we grow in and enjoy ourselves in. That's what was meant to be. It was just hijacked, and it's only hijacked for a period of time, because the dark controllers will not be able to hold on to it. And so here you see his love, which is Radhe or Radha. And this is, again, another representation of the divine masculine and the divine feminine. These are archetypes, so to speak, of what we are to basically emulate in many ways, the characteristics thereof. Of course, each one of us is a unique aspect of Source ourselves, so we're all going to be a little bit different, and that's perfectly fine.
Absolutely. We're all going to have a little bit of lineage, and we're going to have tendencies to this or to that. I think the most important thing to do is follow your curiosities.
And the incarnation right before Krishna, which some scholars think was about 5,000 BC, so about 7,000 years ago, that's debatable again, is the incarnation of Rama. And Rama is, you could think about it as the divine warrior and standing up for all that is right. And again, who is he fighting? He's fighting the Asuras. He's fighting the demonic forces that come on the planet. And it's interesting because the clues are all there. They're out there in plain view for you to see that what this is these beings, these Asuras, are an invading force of beings that we would call basically extraterrestrials or extraterrestrial interdimensionals. What's the difference between the Devas and the Asuras? The Devas came and guided us. They didn't rule over us. They didn't impose things on us. They didn't, turn us into slaves. The Asuras came down, took over areas, and ruled as kings and queens, and basically did impose slavery. And we see this because the Sumerian tradition, the Anunnaki tradition, is the Asura tradition. And it's a tradition that holds sway even now today. And of course, the consort there of Rama is Sita. And Sita, as is Radhe, are incarnations of Lakshmi. And Lakshmi is, again, she is the goddess of love and abundance and of so many beautiful things. As we see Vishnu with Lakshmi in the higher realms. And again, they take a body and they come down to actually teach us directly and to guide us directly and to be examples, because again, they are archetypes at the same time. And here we see Sesha Naga, the king of the Nagas, behind them, which is also representative of the Kundalini energy. Ultimately, the Kundalini energy is a Shakti energy. It is a goddess energy. And it's an energy of the manifest universe. And here we see, again, depictions of these avatars with Hanuman. And Hanuman is a fascinating individual. Hanuman is one of them, one of these benevolent beings that's still with us, still able to come into 3D existence. And in meditation, at one time, I was able and lucky enough to actually get a very good glimpse and actually see his face, see his skin. And it was a blessing because he's very, very real. As you see a depiction of him here, as being a giant being over 100 foot tall. And it is interesting because he has all of these cities or these paranormal abilities that he can do, that he's attained through yoga and through all his past life work as well. He is an incarnation of Shiva. Again, Shiva, that which is not, is basically the consciousness before the creation, and also the wind god Vayu. And unique abilities, including the ability to change his size. But it's interesting because there are yogic abilities which are said by tradition to be available to all if you but work hard enough at it.
If you work hard enough, that's the key.
This is a depiction of Ravana on his aerial machine, kind of depicted as a giant bird. And Ravana was an asura who came to Earth and kidnapped Sita because she was beautiful. And this is another depiction of him flying about. And here we can see perhaps a little bit more accurate, maybe, or in some ways, depiction of all these ships in the air as, you know, he basically kidnaps Sita and takes her to Sri Lanka, modern day Sri Lanka, which he had took over for himself as his own kingdom. So there's a legend that Hanuman, who in some ways kind of represents maybe something similar to a Bigfoot in some ways, although above and beyond perhaps the ability of your typical Bigfoot type being that he is a quote-unquote demigod. Well, he has an army of these ape men that are very intelligent and very strong and tremendous warriors. And they build a bridge over to Sri Lanka from the mainland. This is according to the myths and legends. Curious enough, it's been named Adam's Bridge. Why would you name it Adam's Bridge? Well, everything that is in what we have gotten is everything that you see in the Abrahamic tradition is taken from older legends and it's rewritten. So it was also known as Rama's Bridge or Rama Setu. Now they say it's just a chain of natural limestone shoals, you know, over here that connect the area from Lanka, as you can see here, Sri Lanka, to the mainland. But the legends say that this was built by Rama's army, and specifically by Hanuman's apes, or ape men, in order that they would be able to go and invade the island and rescue Sita, which they end up doing. And they end up killing Ravana as well. And so this comes out of the Ramayana. Fascinating stuff that, you know, there's some evidence that there is some truth to all these legends. And again, Rama is kind of your divine warrior. In some ways, you could look at him as being very stoic. We were talking about Rama, and Cindy says I get the depiction of a block, right?
Yeah, I couldn't pick up any personality off of him. I'm like, okay, I guess something's wrong with me. I must have didn't hear all the stories, or I wasn't paying attention, because when you say Rama, I'm picking up kind of zilch, nada, zero, seriously, a block.
Okay, and when I say Krishna, what do you pick up?
Oh, Krishna is super bright. He's spicy. He's fun. He's, you know, very lighthearted. He's a jokester. So I can pick up these energies. But when you're talking about Rama, I'm like, just, okay, I felt really bad because I couldn't pick up his personality.
Because he's all about devotion to duty.
That's just all he is.
First and foremost, he is devotion to duty. In the face of anything, in the face of overwhelming odds, in the face of, you know, there's no way you could win this possibly, he's still going to go forward and do it. Yeah, so essentially he has no real personality. His personality is duty. That's why I was seeing what I was seeing. I was flatlined. And then you can understand why Vishnu would choose the next one to come back as Krishna, who in some ways has real prankster. I mean, he was always, as a little kid, he was always playing practical jokes, constantly playing practical jokes. And he was very passionate, and he loved music and he loved dance, and he had just a great time, but he could get serious at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
And he is an amazing guy as well. And we've been blessed to be able to make contact. So here we're looking at Shiva and Shakti as, again, divine masculine forces in a way and divine feminine forces in a way. The god and the goddess, there is a saying that all goddesses are one goddess ultimately. And at the same time, we look at the union of Shiva and Shakti, which ends up showing us a union of the masculine and the feminine, which in many ways, again, is representative of balancing of our own energies in our body, the Ida and the Pingala, which kicks off the Kundalini, which is divine Shakti at the base of the spine that flows upwards and unifies with the divine masculine, the Shiva energy at the crown. And then that provides illumination to the individual. One of the great teachings, so there's many different schools of thought and philosophy in Hinduism. We've talked about the fact that there's 30,000 different branches of Christianity. Well, it's like that in Hinduism too. The only difference with Hinduism is they never kind of really, there's not that urge to convert. And I've related this story before. There is a famous story of some priests, some Christian priests that come to India to convert people to Christianity. They tell them all about the amazing things that Christ did, all the miracles of Yeshua, how he's here and he's just a pure being, a pure love, and all about his greatness and all the things he did. And they ask basically the Hindus, so do you accept Jesus as your Lord and Savior? And they were like, yeah, sure. And so, they basically said some words and they were given crosses, and then the missionaries go on. And then what do? They just go over to their shrine, which has statues of Shiva and of Lakshmi and of Vishnu and of Hanuman and of all these different deities. And they put them up right there with the others, and they just add them to the pantheon. Mm-hmm. And instead of like saying, there's only one, they recognize that there's many paths.
So that to me just really enhances how you see people's hypocrisy. Like, my God is better, my God is better. No, these other people are wanting to learn from these different entities. If they're a beautiful soul, they want to learn from them. That's where they place their morals and stuff.
Exactly. And they recognize too that there's different paths for different people. There's not just one path. One size does not fit all, as we've said before. And it's great because we're all unique expressions. So conformity comes from, when we look at it like that, and that whole mindset, thou must conform. Simon says, MASKS is on. Simon says, MASKS is off. How well do you conform? Simon says you must choose. Are you going to be, Baptist? Are you going to be Catholic, Anglican, evangelical? Are you going to even, be Mormon? Are you going to be Jehovah's Witness? Some accepted in most circles to higher degrees than others. Or are you going to be Islam? Are you going to be Sunni? Or are you going to be Shia? Again, as long as it's something that's mainstream, people won't look at you too far off. Or, they do have their prejudices, that's without a doubt. But when you start to say, hey, benevolent beings, they're just benevolent beings. It's pretty simple. I don't think that they're fighting amongst themselves. I don't see, Buddha and Yeshua MMA fighting up in the heavens. No, not at all. Think about how silly that is. It's humanity that has created the dogmas. And in effect, in many cases, it truly is the emissaries of the Asuras, the emissaries of the Draco Illuminati, the secret societies, the Ijiji. It's them that are always pitting us against each other, creating dogmas for us to constantly be wrestling with each other, trying to convert each other to the one true faith.
Right.
The only one true faith is that of love and compassion. Anything that unifies, anything that is bringing us back on the pathway to source itself. That's the only true faith. When Yeshua said, I am the way, truth, and the light, he was talking about his example of loving compassion. He was talking about things like, somebody slaps one cheek, then turn the other. Don't necessarily go and take out your sword and cut off his ear. He didn't condone the actions of the zealots. He didn't condone picking up the sword and going and going after your brother. He talked about a higher way. That was the way. It wasn't about, okay, full body immersion baptism, or make sure you do the sacraments. They developed the sacraments, they developed all the dogmas way after he walked the planet.
And it's also about acceptance. Having an acceptance of other people's belief system is really showing that you are an open, compassionate person who's open to different types of love and different types of understanding. It shows that you're not just stuck on this one road. Well, this is my way, mine, my way, and only people can just go my way. But acceptance is so beautiful, and they show that. These deities show acceptance of each other all the time.
And one of the main teachings that we learned from the Mahabharata, specifically from the Bhagavad Gita, is that the life that we're living now is not our only one. We've been through many. The spark of awareness within us, the self, the soul, whatever you want to call it, the Atman, has no beginning and no end. No knife can cut it, no fire can burn it, no wind can blow it away. But that spark of life keeps moving on from one body to the next. At one time, you might have the body of a child, then you move on to a young person's body, then a middle-aged body, and then to the body of an old person. Yet all those bodies, you feel yourself to be the same you. It's because you are the same you, an ever-evolving you, nonetheless. Only your body has changed. Your body changes, and you're always the same. So you and your body are different. You are not your body. The final change of the body is what we call death, but it's not really final. It's just another transition, another move. As one door opens, another one closes. As you change from childhood to youth to old age, at death you move on to go through the cycle again with birth in another body. What we do in this life sets up our way to the next, just as what we do in school gets us ready for where we go when our schooling is over. In our next life, we can go up or we could go down, or we can get free from the cycle altogether. It depends. It's up to you. Mm-hmm. It truly is up to you. And it's also guided by the law of cause and effect, which we might call karma.
Exactly.
And so the mantra, the power of the Hare Rama, Hare Krishna mantra. And, this is called the Maha mantra, or great mantra. Maha just means great. Like when we say Mahadeva, that just means great Deva. That kind of signifies, a higher level of Deva. So it's typical to signify beings like Shiva and Vishnu, for instance, as Mahadeva or Lakshmi. And, it is a chant that's been around for a long time. The Bhakti movement, which is devotion, it should be basically called devotional love, because it really is all about love. It's centered around love, and it's super powerful. And we have the mantra here for you guys. It's very, very simple. It's Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. That's it. Very, very simple. And I remember we used to do this so much in certain kirtans that at first I would grow a little bit bored with it, because it's one that you would do every single time because it was so popular. But then, it just kind of hit me at the deepest level, and it became one that I enjoyed the most, because no matter what mood I was in, I couldn't fight that fun, loving, happy, devotional feeling towards Source. And the gratitude towards Source for everything that's going on, even the opportunity to learn, even when it's uncomfortable and difficult.
And, it's really interesting, too, when you talk about mantras and the singing and the upliftment. A lot of times when I'm listening to music, I can tell when they've put in things, I call them source tones, or, tones from the heart chakra. So music is essentially really, really important to help really lift your energy body in so many different ways.
And with so many things, we can interpret things in different ways. So here it's saying the Hare Rama, Hare Krishna mantra lyrics can have more than one interpretation. Let us understand the meaning of every word in the mantra. The word Hare is another form of Hari. Hari refers to the supreme form in the religious texts of Hinduism. It also refers to the Lord Brahma or the Lord Narayana. Narayana, Vishnu, basically the same being. He who removes illusion. What's the illusion? The illusion ultimately is of separateness. Because again, we're all divine sparks. We all have source in us. If we didn't have source in us, it couldn't be omnipresent, right?
That's right.
So it's the very definition of it. God cannot be separate from us. It's an impossibility. Meditate on that for those that believe that God is separate from them. Meditate on that. This is part of the gnosis. Unfortunately, so many people are just conditioned. All they know is what they've been told. They haven't looked any deeper. They just haven't taken the hours, which really, in terms of time, might turn into months and years of time, going inward to discover these things. But in these times, everything is sped up, and that's such a beautiful thing. We could achieve so much now that we couldn't achieve before in even lifetimes. We could achieve a lifetime's worth of work perhaps in one single year. We could achieve maybe a decade's worth of work in a month if we really dedicate ourselves to it, because the energies coming in are transforming us and they're bringing back abilities that we had lost for so long. So when we see this again, he who removes the illusion, another way of understanding the word Hare is that it implies the energy or the Shakti, the power of the consort of Lord Krishna. According to the Gita, Lord Vishnu takes on a human form on earth in every era in order to destroy all evil and ensure the rule of truth or justice. It's part of the cycles of the yugas. You know, we descend into darkness, but we always come back up into the light. Every night the sun sets, but it comes back the next day. It's again, as above, so below, as within, so without. And then, you know, Rama again is a divine warrior and duty, the knowing that we have a job. And that's kind of like where we're at, even though we know, you know, if we took a traditional stance on things, the channel would be allowed to have many more views. As Evolutionary, the original channel, before it was censured or demonized, we had many videos that were going over 100,000 views. We had a video that was approaching 1 million views. And the channel itself was growing it to the point where on YouTube, it was ranked in the top several thousand, couple thousand of all the channels, before they caught on that we know the bigger picture and we have to expose it. It's what our job is. And then the censorship comes in. So if we really were all about the money and just about, you know, doing things, we would take a side. But we can't take a side because we have Rama in us.
Right.
We have that devotion to a duty, even if it means, just like so many people have done in the past, you know, just lining up by that pit that you just dug and you know that the gun's being clicked behind your back. You still have a duty and you're going to do it until the very end. It's just who you are. And so that's why it's so beautiful. When you look deep into these stories, there are archetypal energies, and yet they are beings. So I wanted to share that with you guys. I have a couple videos here. You know, this one was an impromptu video that some friends did at a kirtan down in Sarasota. And this one is a better one for you guys to actually hear the band playing a little bit clearer. But I just wanted to see if you could feel the energy. Now, this is just an impromptu Sunday night thing where there would be a vegetarian buffet after this get-together. And this is typical of how a lot of the songs were. And so this is Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, the mantra, but it's also combined with the Beatles, For Your Love. Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, So just wanted to share that with you guys. You know, some of the energy that you could have at that type of get together. And again, there's another version over here of them playing. So the other thing that was in there was Adonai Eloheinu, and so incorporating in some Hebrew words again, as so many people in that circle down there, and that was in Sarasota. Um, you would call themselves Hind Jews, literally, and make a joke of it because they were born Jewish, converted to Christianity in many cases, uh, and then basically incorporated a lot of the Hindu tradition into their lives and just had joy with it. It's beautiful.
And I think a lot of people should be that way, as you're exploring and looking around and following your curiosities. If something works for you, adapt it into your life.
Most definitely. So thank you for your support on Ko-Fi and Patreon. Thank you for checking out Medicinal Foods. There's a link at the top of every video. We couldn't do it without you guys. Make sure you're subscribed and make sure you're sharing. Let's get this world unified and recognize that, it's not about dogma, guys. It's about the love.
Exactly.
God bless and namaste.
Namaste.